Now, it goes even further than that. It's not just the top premium vodka in the world, it's the third largest spirit. Out of all the spirits, vodkas, tequilas, cognacs, anything, is the third largest spirit in the world. Right? That's how big Absolut Vodka is. Right? But out of the top 20, the highest premium vodka is Absolut Vodka. Right? Now, as you can tell, it's not just advertising, but actually the taste of it, right, keeps the promise. It's got texture and smoothness, and that's why. Okay? Now, any questions? Now, when you distill or grain, right, in a continuous distillation process like we do, right, you get a high note of ethylic alcohol, and everything else is very low. The other little marks that you see, right, are esters or aldehydes that make you feel that texture that you felt. All right, but no flavors and smooth. All right. Now, if you take grain and you ferment it, right, and distill it in a copper pot still, this is what you get, right? So not because you use grain, you can make vodka. Distillation is very important, all right? If you distill in a copper pot still, you still get a lot of methanol, a lot of other flavors as well, right? Now, if you take that grain, right, ferment it and distill in a copper pot still, and put it in an old cask for a couple of years, right, you have better tasting flavors, of course, but still a very complex spirit. You get whiskey, right? Now, whiskey, it's always made out of grain, right? But if you distill in column stills at a higher percentage of alcohol, then you can make vodka, right? Now, the importance of making it in the same place is because there's vodkas that sells themselves with the same bottle, the same name, the same advertising in different parts of the world, right? And yet, they make it in different countries, therefore making a different signature vodka. Why? Because they use the water from that country, grain from different parts of the world, and the column still, even if you design it to be exactly the same, there will always be small differences that will make a different tasting vodka. Okay? That's why for us it's so important that Absolut Vodka comes from one place, one source, the south of Sweden. One distillery, one water, one winter wheat. All right? Any questions?
Yeah. So vodka, like Puerto Rico, Venezuela, they don't have any the companies don't do the process.
We do vodkas all over the world, not Absolut. Absolut makes it in one place. I mean, in the world, just about every country makes a vodka, a local vodka, all right? But it's an ordinary vodka, usually because they will use a sugar source that is not necessarily a premium one, like sugarcane or potatoes or beets. Potato is not bad, let me tell you. A potato vodka could be very good, even super premium, all right? The thing about potatoes is to hydrolyze the starch on a potato is more expensive. So it makes for a more expensive vodka. That's why they stopped using potatoes a long time ago. You get more vodka, more premium vodka out of grain than you will get out of potatoes, right? So potatoes are not bad. Maybe not as bad as beets or sugarcane or molasses or something else, right? But it will make for a more expensive product. Okay? Agreed? All right. Now let me tell you. Well, number 3. Right? We're moving along. Right? With what grain and where is Absolut Vodka made? A, corn in the U.S. B, rye in Europe. C, winter wheat in Sweden. Or D, all of the above. Which one of these you think is the correct answer for Absolut Vodka? All right? Now, while you answer that, I encourage you, never take what anybody comes and do a training, never take the information they give you for granted. All right? Do your research. Prove it. All right? Go to the internet. Go back to your books. All right? Get that information. All right? Read it again. All right? Prove that they actually tell you the truth. All right? The reason for this is twofold. First, I've seen it. All right? I've seen people come and do trainings and just come up with things out of the top of their heads. All right? And just to make the product that they're selling seem better or premium. All right? And moreover, when you go back, all right, to books or the internet and prove the information that I've given you or anybody else that does a training, it will stay in your mind a lot better. All right? You will keep it better. All right? Because you read it again. All right? You review it. All right? So always review the information you get from anybody, even me. All right? Now, the advantage that I give Pernod Ricard is that I'm not an employee for Pernod Ricard. That's why I can visit distilleries from other companies as well. I actually get invited to do. All right? I visited dozens of distilleries all over the world. And I've taken training for Scotch whiskey dozens of times, tequilas, cognac, all over the world. I've taken training on spirits. All right. The reason for this is for me to be able to choose what brands I'm going to work with. All right, and that I can actually know and learn the brands, not just from what I read, but what I feel and see. And all this information I bring to you. All right. Any questions? Doubts? All right. So, 1979, 100 years later, we actually came up with an idea of launching Absolut Vodka outside from Sweden. 100 years later. Now, Absolut Vodka was named Absolut Ren Van Bryn, which means absolutely pure vodka. Okay? Van Bryn, it's burnt wine, right? Which is spirit in Scandinavia, all right? And Absolut, obviously, absolutely, all right? And Ren, well, you do the math, all right? When they were going to launch it, was too long of a name, so they shorted it to Absolut, all right? The next thing they did, they needed a bottle that was very different than anything else, right? The bottle they selected, right, was an old medicine bottle from Sweden that was used hundreds of years before, all right? They just did one change, which is they took a lot of the iron from the mix of the sand in order to make it clear for us to put the information on the bottle for you to be able to see through and see that the Absolut Vodka is as pure as possible, all right? Now, we were going to launch it for the first time in New York, right? The Americans gave us an idea, which was the lid, right? It looks like a halo, meaning as pure as possible, all right? And that's how Absolut Vodka came to be, okay? Now, you can tell at that time, every spirit used a paper label, therefore it stand out. The blue letters, it was the first spirit to ever use blue letters on a bottle, all right? And since it was clear, you know, it was very significant. People recognize it right away. Nowadays, it's one of the most recognized icons in the world. Actually, we have I have a video of a survey that was done in New York, actually, in the 90s. People were shown a picture of a rainforest, of water falling down in spring, all right? And just no civilization, only plants and water and rocks, all right? And the spring had the shape of the side of the bottle. And within 5 seconds, people will identify that it was an Absolut ad, right? With no letters, no nothing, right? It actually, among adults all over the world, it's one of the most recognized icons, second only to the logo of Coca-Cola, right? Among adults, right? It's a very recognizable bottle, right? Therefore, by having it at your bar, you're not just saying you have premium stuff, premium brands, but also that you are, you know, within the international standards, right? Now, the next thing we took out of the U.S. in the late 70s, early 80s, it was Absolut flavors, right? Now, in the 80s, one of the most popular cocktails at the time was the Bloody Mary, okay? Now, the Bloody Mary at that time, right, and as you know, has a lot of ingredients, all right? Not just tomatoes. It's got pepper, salt, celery salt, hot sauce, English sauce, horseradish if you have it, all right? So on and so forth, right? Not just bars, but people at home wouldn't have all the ingredients. Now, we realized we can take advantage of a tradition in Sweden, which was to infuse flavors into the spirit without adding sugar. If you can tell, right, if you can do some memory, out of all the spirits you have that come from Europe, usually, bless you, usually will have some contents of sugar, as long as they have some kind of flavor added to it. But the Swedes never added sugar to their spirits, meaning it was pure vodka with a natural infusion. No sweetness. You will put as much sweetness as you want in the cocktail, right? So we realized we took that tradition and we made a vodka infused with bell peppers and jalapeno peppers, giving that essence and feel of the Bloody Mary. Since there was no sugar added and a natural infusion, 40% alcohol, you will just have Absolut pepper to tomato juice, and you will have a homemade or a very simple Bloody Mary to make at home, right? Or a corner bar where there's not many ingredients to go by, right? And that's how the first flavor was made, right? So to make it more convenient, right? Absolut pure vodka, 40% alcohol, no sugar added, natural infusion, meaning, you know, it was as natural as could possibly be.